That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May.
Good afternoon. The life of Australian Prime Minister Gillard was endangered in a bitter race riot which marred that country's National Day today. Security agents also had to rescue the alternative Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, from a shouting, surging mob of native Aborigines and their supporters in the Australian capital city of Canberra. Ms Gillard tripped and lost a shoe as agents dragged her to safety. That's a slight exaggeration of what happened on Australia Day 2012, but that is the image presented to the world along with photos of a terrified Prime Minister being manhandled to her car and apparently bumping her head as she was urgently pushed inside to safety. Abbott followed seconds later. At home, our own newspapers carried headlines like Australia Day Shame and graphic photos of our Prime Minister nearly prostrate and held almost in a desperate headlock as she is supported and dragged to safety. It was a day of shame, and as I said on Twitter at the time, no matter what the cause, no matter how noble, this is a disgrace. And it was. But what can you expect when one of the founders of the so-called Aboriginal Tent Embassy, Michael Anderson, also said yesterday, to hell with the governments and the courts. The same government that under Kevin Rudd formally apologised to the stolen generation, the same courts that recognised native title with the Mabo decision, and one elderly activist, Pat Eatock, who ended up with Ms Gillard's shoe, said they would sell it on eBay. And she accused the Prime Minister and Tony Abbott of provocation for staging an Australia Day ceremony close to the Tent Embassy. Ignore the fact that the protesters bashed on the windows and hollered and tried to disrupt an awards ceremony honouring emergency workers who saved lives and property for all Australians of all colours and all creeds in time of pestilence, of fire and of flood. Well, the protesters were yesterday's pestilence. Among the things that emerged from the turmoil was a moment of class from Julia Gillard, who's often accused of not being prime ministerial. I thought she showed calmness and authority and genuine concern for her political enemy Tony Abbott. As soon as a member of her security team whispered in her ear, "We feel the situation is deteriorating and we can't stay too much longer." Julia Gillard's instant calm reaction was, "Okay, all right, what about Mr Abbott? Where have you got him? We'd better help him through too, hadn't we?" I thought it showed strength and genuine compassion under pressure, something not often seen in the public Julia Gillard. The other thing is that the whole protest was based on a Chinese rumour that has people blaming Abbott for sparking the riot. He did not advocate the removal of the Tent Embassy on its 40th anniversary. Earlier in the day, in Sydney, a reporter asked him, "Mr Abbott, is the Tent Embassy still relevant or should it move?" And in his lengthy answer, Abbott said in part, "Look, I can understand why the Tent Embassy was established all those years ago." He mentioned the apology, the current plans to amend the Constitution, respect for Aboriginal people, and he finished by saying about the embassy, "I think a lot has changed since then, and I think it probably is time to move on." A fair and rational comment. There was nothing fair or rational about what happened in Canberra yesterday. The only memory going forward from Australia Day 2012 is that of the Prime Minister of this country, her physical self and the office itself being trashed and threatened by a motley crew who did their cause no good at all. As I said on Twitter just after the story broke and the first dramatic photos appeared, there goes Australia Day.